No man who is correctly informed as to the past will be disposed to take a morose or desponding view of the present. Thomas Malthus. Another good idea as it relates, I believe Peter Thiel said this, it relates to mimetic theory. Look up, not around. Think about that a second. Look up, not around. What do most people do? They look around. What are other people doing? That's the best way. Maybe it's the only way, because that's why they're doing it. Looking up, though, looking into the future, where nobody's doing anything right now, that's where you find innovation. That's where the big thinkers are. That's where the big ideas are. That's where prosperity is for you. Some people get rich by doing what other people do, sure, but they usually lose something along the way. They might get rich, but then they're miserable or they're overweight or they're whatever, because that's what a lot of people that doggedly pursue society's definition of success, that's what they get. There's another way to do it. You can literally become happy, successful, have a sexy body, become financially free, and do work that matters to you and make a difference in the world. You can have all of that. You can also become addicted to more. And no matter how much money you make or how many awards you get or things you do or whatever, you could become and forever be miserable. Forever be yearning, searching, never fulfilled. If you're here, I'm Colin Sluckert. If you're here, I'm Colin. I am an entrepreneur, thinker, podcaster. I'm just a human. And I pride myself in thinking for myself. Of course, I'm influenced by other people because we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm using English right now. I didn't invent English. I don't have any claim or credit to using this language. My parents are the reason I'm here. Anything that I've done since then is really traced back to them, and then their parents, and 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 their parents, all the way back to the dawn of time, to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, our forebears, that had to deal with some shit, some major shit. And I'm here basking in AC, and it's like 105 degrees out in Austin. I already went out there, did my writing, a little sweaty, a little stinky, but now I'm inside, and the comfort of my office behind a screen, this amazing device that Apple made, this technology. Look, I'm turning the screen. Look, that's what I'm doing. Look, that's what I'm doing. $300 mic here on this $20, maybe it's a $30 Amazon arm. And I have all this prosperity around me. And I can sit here and talk to a screen, which is basically talking to you, whoever the recipient is of this information, that listener. I can do that. You can consume it in the comfort of your home or wherever you happen to be. And that's a pretty amazing thing. I mean, you got to think about it. At one point, the idea that you could even communicate with someone across the world, like I believe the telegraph was probably the thing that did that. And before that, it was a letter. You send a letter and it goes from Europe to somebody in America, for example. That was a miraculous invention. Now we can get on a screen and see somebody's face in real time, and they could be anywhere on planet Earth right now. Even in the Arctic, you could do a call. If you have a satellite internet connection, I could do a podcast with somebody that's sitting in the Arctic right now. Incredible. So much to be thankful for. So much prosperity is around us. But what do we have? We have a negativity bias. Because humans had to develop that in nature. Because if you weren't very careful in nature, if you didn't always assume that something was going to jump out and eat you alive, which was a very real threat, maybe you even had some loved ones that succumbed to that, if you didn't have a negativity bias, is what psychologists call this. It basically means you're more prone to be afraid of things, overestimate dangers. You're more prone to look for the negative in things or look for the thing to be afraid of, because that kept our ancestors safe. What does it do in the modern environment? It keeps our people today, humans, which we are the progenitors of these genes that our ancestors had and passed down to us. It makes us afraid, fragile-minded, listening to shit that is monetizing our attention by scaring us, or other hyperbole bullshit, politics, marketing, crap that you probably don't need. You need all this stuff to feel like you fit in, whatever. And the majority of humans alive, the majority of Homo sapiens sapiens in the modern environment have absolutely no clue how their biology works. Can you believe that? Really try to think about that. Fathom that. You live your whole life in this body with a set of genes, with that brain and that body, and you eat food and you do all the things that every other human does, and you have no manual. So what you do is you look to other humans around you. What do they do? That's what I'll do. And it's like average of the 7 people you spend the most time with, and you're the average of your family that brought you up, you got their habits, etc. And that's why it's really hard, because For example, as someone that I've broken the paradigm of having to live based on the people around me. You could actually say that people around me live based on me rather than vice versa. Now, of course, like I said, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And I've turned to a lot of people over the years, whether that's historians, whether that's writers, whether that's people in the health space, a lot of my own research in conjunction to that, self-experimentation. I've used all of those resources to build a life plan. I mean, that's mostly, at least in my immediate environment, it's from me outward rather than from outward to me. I actually need to spend more time with more successful people. I need more big thinkers in my life and I need to find them. That's kind of why the podcast is a way to do that, because they're disparate and spread out. But I've been able to do that, and it's been a long journey. You could say probably 20 years since I got out of high school and I was, all self-help, want to be successful, motivated. And I learned along the way. And there's people in my immediate environment along the way. But honestly, most of my inspiration, and this is something that is very worth taking away. This is a teachable moment. This is a learnable moment. This is something that you should really consider. Most of the people that I've learned from in my life, most of the things that I've done as a result of learning from these people are from people that I've never met and will never meet. They are either from biographies of historical figures. They are podcast discussions of people I've never met and that I just follow online. Books I've read. There are YouTube videos I've watched. And there are people in my life that I've learned from, various mentors here and there. But the overwhelming majority of where I've developed my base for life that has allowed me to become a multimillionaire, work from anywhere in the world on only what I want to work on, have a healthy family, be prepared, have a plan B, have gotten to the point of understanding Bitcoin and am at the forefront of the thing that's going to change Earth, which in like 5 and 10 years, I will be extremely grateful for. I've been able to get to this point mostly by learning from people I've never met on my own schedule, on my own time, in my own way. That is the most miraculous thing, aside from Bitcoin, of course. Bitcoin, for me, hands down, the most miraculous thing in my lifetime. The most important, miraculous, and the most important for the future. Period. Full stop. After that, though, is this ability to take in information and learn and self-experiment and build a life absolutely for myself. Doing nothing but that. Just taking information and ideas, thinking about them, testing them, trying them, writing about them, meditating on them, dreaming about them, learning from the cause and effect relationship that my physical body has with reality. And then the things that stick, I do more of. As Bruce Lee said, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own. That's what I've been doing for 20 years. I can tell you right now, if I had YouTube, the internet, and all the things that I have right now, if I had this shit when I was 21, oh my gosh, it's crazy to think where I could be right now. But to each his own, and we each have our own journey path. So looking back and comparing and thinking what it could have, should have, whatever, I don't find much use in it other than thinking, I'm here right now. What do I want to achieve? It's up to me to achieve it, nobody else. So what do I need to do to achieve that? That's it. And every day of your life, for the rest of your life, that will be the case. You want things. Generally, things you want require some kind of energy expenditure, proof of work, as they say in Bitcoin, which is the perfect, apt metaphor for life. The things that are valuable require hard effort because the effort is what makes them valuable. It's a duality of life. It's like the infinity duality, back and forth. Everything is connected. What that means is that when you want something, it's up to you to get it. And the thing that people fail to understand, because humans are designed to conserve energy, but the thing that most humans don't grasp is that you want things to be hard to acquire because that's what gives them meaning. If you were able to get everything you wanted easy, you would actually get a lack of appreciation for those things, which leads to things like sloth and like the 7 deadly sins and half of America being overweight and obese. That is from easily available things like calories or shit food, for example, that give you a quick dopamine response, but in the long run kill you. They call it high time preference behavior. You want things now, whereas low time preference behavior is where you're able to put off satisfaction now for a long-term reward later. The best investors, to be an investor, period, and be successful, you have to have low time preference behavior. To be healthy and have a healthy body, you have to have low time preference behavior. And it's a constant pull. I'm not saying anybody's perfect at this. Like, I enjoy too much sourdough bread this week and a lot of chocolate and some vanilla ice cream. And today I didn't feel so great. And it was definitely that catching up to me as my gut was not happy. I could go on about this, and I will keep talking about these things because it's really life, it's philosophy, it's duality. These things are everything. And a few of these notes I have. So a really great resource that you should check out is Derek Sivers' book notes. He's got like 300 books, and he's got a bunch of highlights from each book. This is from Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I still like getting into the book notes, the highlighted parts. People overestimate the probabilities of unlikely events. People overweight unlikely events in their decisions. Now, this is that negativity bias. This is why the news preys on fear and sensationalizing things, right? And in the political realm, around the 9/11 time, the news would have you enter any public building was at risk of being blown up by a bomb. Now, what the current thing is everyone believes that they're going to be shot to death. Everyone thinks that there's going to be a mass shooting anytime you go anywhere. Now, I don't want to get into that, but understand the human nature of it so that you can objectively analyze risk, so that you can objectively analyze statistics. Because in this next example, for example, we overestimate things. Our human mind is not designed for large numbers. It's not designed to understand these things that are very complex. For example, here, another quote from the book. A disease that kills 1,286 people out of every 10,000 was judged more dangerous than a disease that kills 24.4 out of 100. So 24 out of 100 is 24.4%. 1,200, let's do this real quick. 1,286 divided by 10,0 is, I guess it's 10%, 12%. 24 out of 100 is double in the first example. Thinking Fast and Slow is one of those books that's just, it's a little dry, but there's a lot of good examples in it. It's something that you should read multiple times to really grasp and understand. But the thesis is pretty much that humans are very irrational creatures. Our type 1 thinking method is like the quick, immediate, like gut checking response. That is very prone to always taking a negative perspective because a negative perspective in the wild was safer. You're better off being wrong that there wasn't a tiger around the bush than being too lackadaisy for the many times where there could be a tiger around the bush, because statistically you wouldn't last very long. And so what that meant is that the lackadaisy genes and the lackadaisy hunter-gatherers that were just wandering through nature, not really paying attention, not caring, being carefree, those people got eaten. People that were safe, that were maybe walking behind the lackadaisy person, constantly being aware from all angles, looking at all the prospective dangers around every single corner or in every little puddle or whatever, the things you couldn't see, those people survived longer. And then they procreated, and then those kids did the same thing and procreated, and so on and so forth, which is why we have genes that are designed to be afraid of things like this when the media comes at us and makes it sound like the world is ending or this threat is 1,000,000 times greater than it actually is, etc. Okay? And the media uses this because it's just one of those things that's happened over years. They know that fear sells. Same thing with gossip. Gossip and famous celebrity culture and things like that, it sells because humans are designed to talk about other people. And that's a whole other evolutionary explanation, which I can get into in another show. We have limited time. I want to get to some of these tweets. And then here we go. We have a video. People are beaten with batons at a protest in Amsterdam over COVID restrictions. And then you see these spineless cowards just running at people with their batons up, beating them. A dog is on the guy's arm. It's just absolutely all in the name of safety. When you don't understand history and human nature, the state, government, the Lord Byron quote of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you don't understand these things as a first principle of humans and just the world, then you have really bad ideas about the state and politics, and you probably vote Democrat. Unfortunately, that is the way it is. But if you vote at all because you think that it matters, then you're also, swimming in the same delusion to some extent. At least if you vote conservative, you're more likely to be voting for adhering to the principles of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, which are still the most important documents ever created for any form of state organization. Doesn't mean it's the best, but it's the best thus far. If you don't understand these things, you will be somebody that says like, oh, we should ban assault rifles because crazy people take them and sometimes kill people. But with that same logic, we should ban cars because same thing happens. We should ban alcohol because way more people die from alcohol-related deaths than gun deaths, and like so on and so forth. We should ban planes because people die. Not a lot of people die in planes. It's way less than cars, but people still die in planes. This idea that we're going to eliminate death, everything's going to be perfect, there's going to be no risk, it's a complete and utter nonsensical idea. And it comes from watching too much media, which, as we talked about, is just fear-based propaganda meant to get you to think a certain way, vote a certain way, or just pay attention, be plugged into it, Matrix style, right? And you'll spend your money a certain way. You'll have a certain faith in politicians in the state. You'll think that more laws are better. You'll think that things like banning assault rifles is going to solve it, when you don't even for a second analyze the unintended consequences. Nazi Germany, Hitler took away the guns. Mao got rid of the guns. Stalin got rid of the guns. The other guy, I think his name was Dao or something. He was an Indonesian dictator. Took away the guns. And then each one of those men that I just mentioned collectively murdered probably over 100 million directly, maybe like 75 million directly, and then another 50 to 100 million indirectly through World War II, through starvation in China and Soviet Russia. And you think getting rid of guns so that only the state has them is a good idea? You don't understand history. You don't understand that the biggest threat to humanity is always the state, especially considering that a few states around the world have nuclear arms. The state is always the biggest threat. Period. Full stop. This is a good tweet. We live in a time where intelligent people are being silenced so that stupid people won't be offended. I don't care though. I say it. I had no idea until today that there were 3 Clinton donors on the jury that found Hillary Clinton's lawyer not guilty. How was that even allowed? This is a good thread. It's LarryAlexTaunton.com, TAUNTON.com. He looks like to be a lawyer. And this thread is on guns and mass killings. And he looks at a bunch of them around the world. Very good thread. Very important. This one is just absolutely disgusting. I'm going to throw it in here because, like, oh my gosh, just literally disgusting. So this is from a bike race where 2 men that are pretending to be women are kissing on the podium in this women's race, a bike race. They both took first and second. And then the actual woman stands in third place with her daughter. You can't make this shit up. Unbelievably disgusting. What's crazy is this shit is happening by men. And people are letting it happen. I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. It's so crazy to me. Here's a good one on climate propaganda. Al Gore said 20 years ago this month, we would all be dead from global warming. How is everybody doing? And I'll be saying that every single year. Here's one that's very sad. Like, I take absolutely no joy in hearing this shit. Even though part of me is like, duh, told you so. Vaccine damage has just hit the family. It's not anecdotal anymore. My 28-year-old healthy niece, who mocked my stance on the vaccine by saying she has had all her shots and booster, still didn't grow an extra limb, that's what she would say, is in the cardiac ward. And doctors don't know what the problem is. Here's another one, and I'm going to let you go. It's from a doctor. I've been a primary care doctor, or he's got doctor emoji, for 39 years and never received a complaint from a patient. It's a fact, period. But last week, I discovered that the Medical Council of Ireland intended to prosecute me for professional misconduct because I used social media to dare the COVID narrative. Finally, this last picture. How close humanity is. And it's got a picture of a hand with the index and thumb. The same, if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm trying to explain this. The same, like when you say something's very small and you put your hand up, like itty bitty inch. That's what the picture is. And it says at the top, how close humanity is to understanding that the government are organized criminals. I've said that the government is like the mafia for a long time. They promise protection even if you don't want it in exchange for, being a tax slave and other slave in other ways. Extortion. That's going to be it. I'll be doing more. So subscribe on YouTube and get the Better Human podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as the Better Human newsletter over at thebetterhuman.co.